Hey there, welcome to another Tesla Motors Club podcast. My name is Lewis.
I'm Doug.
And I'm Mike.
On today's episode, we're going to recover the recent events at the Tesla Semi event that happened. There's some news about Cybertruck charging, see what happens there. And there's a model refresh possibly next year. So all that and more on episode number 29, which starts now. Alrighty, we're here. How are you gentlemen today?
Just another day in paradise, sir. Another day.
Having fun?
Good.
Alrighty. We have some exciting news potentially. We have a surprise guest on today's episode that we didn't talk about. So let's introduce Larry into the mix.
All right.
Welcome, Larry.
What's up, fellas?
Hey, Larry.
How are we doing?
Larry, the proverbial hair of the show. For those
Yeah.
who can't see.
We were just talking. I might have to shave if I ever want to come back here just to fit in.
So, Larry, how about you give our listeners and viewers a brief intro on yourself and your Tesla backstory?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Well, yeah, first of all, thanks for having me here. Super excited to hang out with you guys for a little bit. As a quick background, if you guys maybe have seen my YouTube channel, that's great. If not, I have a channel. It's all about everything electric. So that was my first dip into the EV world. I've owned a Model Y. I currently own a Model X. I'm obsessed with basically everything EV. I even own a electric bike shop. So like I was saying earlier, like anything from like a scooter to obviously a Tesla or a truck or whatever it is, if it's electrified, I probably want to learn as much as I can about it. So I try to stay up on, basically everything EV news, and I live and breathe it when I'm outside of my normal day job, which is a boring finance marketer. So I kind of double dip in both worlds sometimes, but mostly just kind of do my day job and then come home, put the kids to bed, go to my basement and make videos about electric cars, which it's pretty great so far.
Excellent. Well, we'll have to get your input on both the technical electric aspects of the new Semi and the financial aspects of where it might play out.
For the record, I do marketing for a financial place. Do not trust me with
Fair
anything
enough.
financial. I'll give you
Fair
my
enough.
opinion, but just don't take it to the bank.
Awesome. So, I guess, so again, welcome. Glad to have you here. To jump right into our first big topic, the Semi event, the Tesla Semi, I don't know how folks want to call it. Where I'm from, they're called tractor trailers. So, so that's my
Big
regional
rig,
dialect.
Tractor trailer.
But yeah, so Mike, how about you give us a little intro into what happened, what went down?
If you're a fanboy, you probably enjoyed it. Most of the folks I know considered it to be something of a yawner. They were expecting, I don't know, more of a show, more details, I guess, and it was kind of light on the details, kind of light on the show, actually. They rolled out 2 semis. They kind of gave a little dog and pony about it, told us how great they were. They showed it in use to deliver Frito chips and basically said, have a nice day. That was just some result of 45 minutes or 50 minutes of a show. In the last few days, though, more details.
I was going to say they set a record. It was only 10 minutes late. That's the most on time I've ever seen them.
Yeah, that's true.
That's impressive. Good job, Tesla. Okay, so to set some backstory here, so we have a only 10-minute late show from Tesla announcing the delivery of their semi truck, the all EV semi that they're delivering.
Well, it was promised in 2019. That's what was supposed to have been delivered.
Sure.
So right on schedule.
We're finally here. We're finally
Tesla time being what it is.
So the show was 10 minutes late, but the delivery of the product was 3 years late. Okay.
Right.
That might actually be a Tesla record as well. No, I'm just.
I'm not even
right.
I'm not even sure how much they really delivered though, because the way they described it, they said the previous day they brought the truck to Frito-Lay, and Frito-Lay drove it back up with snacks. So as far as I can tell, that means they have the truck back. Like, did they give them trucks to keep? I mean, they never elaborated on that. And they talked a lot about, eating their own dog food in a way, if you're familiar with that term, meaning they'll just use the trucks themselves. And it sounds like a kind of thing where, you use it, you work out the bugs. But they've already been doing that for a bit. So I'm not really sure what really changed at all at that event, except to try to officially say we've delivered something, just because, they've made that promise for a while and said it would happen this year. And this year's almost over.
They got snacks, so that changed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I wouldn't mind a truck full of snacks being delivered at my house.
We got proof of 500-mile range. And David, there was just a comment from, where is it? There it is, David Kaplan. I thought the semi event was good because of what they showed, proof of the 500-mile trip with haulage. I'll agree with that, but with a very large caveat. If you look at the video of the time lapse and you pay attention to the speedometer when you can see it, they weren't running at 70 miles an hour or 60. They were running anywhere from 30 to 55, maybe. So they were really conservative on the speed, which lets them stretch the range. I think it remains to be seen if the truck can actually do 500 miles fully loaded in normal driving conditions.
And,
Did they
and how loaded was it with chips and things?
My exact question.
Sorry, Larry. Didn't mean to steal your
took
question.
the words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
I was going to ask if it was something light like chips or something.
High density chips.
Oh,
They claimed that they did this big drive, and they showed pictures of it. It had these large, looked like Jersey barriers.
They did. But pay attention to the speedometer. There was a gentleman that did a very detailed analysis on the whole drive, and it was very interesting what he picked up looking at the video clip by clip. And he kind of did the math, of miles per hour versus where they were. Like the last 100 miles, they never broke 53 miles an hour, from Riverside to San Diego. And let's be clear, Riverside, San Diego is actually downhill. So they had a little extra help with that last 100 miles of range.
I mean, they went out of their way to say that they had to add like a dog leg on the trip just to push the range a little bit more, just to add a bit more till it got closer to running out. So it's a demonstration. They completely controlled the demonstration. Talking about that video though, the main thing I noticed that they didn't say, I did a live broadcast with the show, had Wes Whalen on with me, and he's the former program manager of AI at Tesla. And one thing we're like, they said nothing about autopilot, right?
Yeah, zero.
And they didn't even highlight what kind of hardware was on the vehicle. Now, from the event, you're able to see pictures of it. You're able to see that they had cameras, and so they had a whole set of cameras there. There's also cameras on the hoods, on the windshield, sort of near the camera set on the standard vehicles they have. So it seems like they pretty much had all they needed for that autopilot stack, right? But they didn't really talk about it. Though if you watch that video, you do see that they do have autopilot-like visualizations going on. They probably at least have a sort of a lane keeping capability, but they never said anything about it, and you sort of have to wonder why not mention it.
I'm not sure the public's ready for an 82,000-pound truck running, autopilot.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking it was a PR thing, not to really mention it.
I mean, I have enough issues in my car, much less the truck behind me.
Though it would be great. I mean, I've been, driving some long trips, and these semis, some of these trucks, they're all over the lane. If it could just do the nice lane keeping, it's directly down the middle of the lane. I think I'd appreciate that.
It's definitely. I would imagine it's a soon to come feature once they are really delivering the trucks. There's certainly going to be a lot of work they have to do with the software to adapt the modeling from normal cars to the trucks, just due to a number of changes in the design and the size and things like that. But I don't see it being too much of a problem. Now, Mike, you made a comment about their speed restrictions. Alan Taylor in chat brings up a good point that 55 miles an hour is technically the speed limit.
That's max. But the reality is most trucks go much faster.
Yes. So most trucks go faster. I think there's a lot of interesting economic aspects to what the semi trailer involves, or like what kind of market impact it can have when you're looking at the costs of driving it and the fuel and the E versus EV and all other kind of stuff, maintenance and all that. But then there's also going to be like, how long does it take to drive somewhere if you include charging? What are the distances you can do? All those types of things. So max speed is kind of relevant, right? It is going to limit how long it takes you to travel goods, or for
what's more important for the folks with these EV trucks, according to the math, is the trailer, because the trailers are generally terrible for efficiency, drag coefficient. The truck's great. The truck's got the good front end. It's 0.36, or I think they've advertised as 0.36 is the drag coefficient. But the trailer behind that truck is where the wheels are going to fall off, kind of speak. Unless you got a trailer that has got aerodynamics to match, you're going to really hurt yourself in range.
Sure. So Larry, what are your thoughts on just the news of all this happening? Are you excited about Tesla getting into, tractor trailers, which is that's just how I have to say it.
Big,
40 years of hearing it that way.
I love it.
So is this something that excites you? Is this something that you think is maybe a waste of time? Like, what do you think makes sense here?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, totally just from out of my field. I wouldn't call this the Bible, but I personally, like, it's great. I love that it's happening. But I think there's still so many other like irons in the fire that are yet to be delivered on, that whenever something new comes out, I mean, I'm like, I appreciate it for what it is. Like, I don't want to be cynical about anything, but at the same time, I'm still like, that Cybertruck reservation, mine's burning a hole in Elon's pocket, that I'd love to see something there. Or, the poor Roadster folks. Like, I always just think about, all the other undelivered products. And I'm just like, well, I'm glad they can at least check this one off. And I do think it's great, but I personally think, the massive benefits are going to be like 10 years from now, when they can literally drive themselves and, automate the entire, logistic thing like that. That's going to be its own industry, which would be, incredible soon. But I still think that's like 10 years away. So cool. But also, let's get back on track to consumer vehicles.
I think you just hit on a very interesting point, Larry. And you mentioned all the other irons in the fire. And you're absolutely right. There are. But I think Tesla made a very interesting choice when they brought out the big rig and designed it, that they're leveraging technology they've already proven in the cars. They, from the battery heating to the actual battery construction they're using, to the plaid motors they're using. I mean, this is all stuff that they've proven and have got stockpiles. I mean, it's not reinventing the wheel.
Okay.
Unlike some of the other irons that they have to play with, like the Cybertruck, which is from ground up to a large degree. So hard to say.
No, yeah.
If you got to pick an iron that you can deliver, maybe that's the one to pick.
And this one's probably most exciting to people like, investors and stuff too, because it's like I was saying earlier, it could be its own industry, eventually. Or definitely will be. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, so I get the prioritization there.
For me, as I've said before, I think this is the vehicle that has the most environmental impact, right?
Amen.
I hate I hate, even when I'm driving in the car, the semi truck comes up, I got to put the air on recirculate because I
don't like all the exhaust and the particulate and everything that goes with it.
Yeah. Or just as, someone who likes to go jogging, I'd be so happy when all the diesels, even with, all the newer technology with the ammonia and the, trying to clean up the exhaust. It's like, come on, just make it electric. That'll give you all the torque that you need for those types of vehicles.
Well, speaking of torque, I don't know if you saw did you watch the whole time-lapse video of the 500-mile drive?
I scanned through it, mainly trying to look at the screen to understand if they're using autopilot or what.
So there was one scene where the truck was shown going up the 6% pass. It's a 6% grade, and they were accelerating and gaining speed going up while everybody else was dropping gears and going slower.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was very impressive. That's torque. That's torque at work.
Electric has torque. It really is going to come down to the range and the charging time. So, so Doug, what were your thoughts on the information provided around charging? I mean,
well, they did talk about a version 4 of charging, right? And and up to like a megawatt, right?
Yep, 1,000 volts.
And that's like a factor of 4, right? They're doing about 250 kilowatts. It wasn't clear to me. Did they really say? I wasn't clear to me. They said anything about voltage or current. I just heard power. Like
I heard 1,000 volts is what they built the system for.
So that makes you wonder. I mean, it has multiple packs. You wonder what's the voltage of the pack then. Is it a higher voltage pack? And because obviously, if you increase the voltage, great, because then you don't need as much current to get that level of power. And just as long as you're not, there are safety constraints. As long as you're not breaking the air down, if your insulation you have enough electrical isolation,
that can get a little exciting.
Then sure, it's because the higher the current, the more losses there are. So if you can increase the voltage and reduce the current, then you have a more efficient setup. So yeah, that was interesting. They showed the setup, but I didn't feel that any of that was new. I mean, they showed this video that looked like a render that I think was out, at least a year ago, showing it sort of pull up to the semi chargers or whatever they decided to call them, and just as long as it's a pull through type thing, and
sure.
Right. It wasn't exactly clear to me. I guess they're using the same connector as well. I envisioned them like having multiple Tesla connectors in, or some kind of,
I just envisioned a semi pulling up at a charging station next to you, like having to park horizontally, taking up all the spots.
Well, they have to back it in, right?
Back it in.
Yeah.
A giant power plug comes out, Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, I don't know. It's certainly going to be interesting to see how it works in practice, right? So as Doug mentioned earlier, Tesla has been, doing this stuff themselves. They've been running these trucks supposedly for transporting some of their own goods. It'll be interesting to see real world usage. I'm still concerned about. So I like what you said about it being incredibly impactful, and I agree about trucking being a huge, polluter. And source of pollution and particulates in the air and stuff like that for around the world. I think the problem is there's lots of forms of trucking and logistical transportation that this can't replace with current technology, but they need to do improvements to the technology in some way to do that, right? So like there's a lot of trucks today, for example, for like doing cross-country transportation of goods where they have teams and that truck is driving basically 24/7 except for fueling. There's no way you're going to do that with an electric truck. You're going to have these, long 30+ minute hour, breaks, and you're going to add a ton of time to how long it takes from goods to get from one place to another.
How long does it take to drive 500 miles?
Well, I mean,
6 to 8 hours, I guess.
Yeah, depends on your speed limit. Your average rate of speed.
55.
Right?
Assuming that those chargers are placed appropriately. I mean, is a half-hour break or hour break?
No, they say straight up, this truck is for regional deliveries. It's intended for the driver that gets in it, makes a delivery run, comes back, plugs it in, goes home at night. It is not set up to be cross-country. Right. They're very clear about that. And
so I wonder how much of the trucking industry that covers, right? Like, is that the majority of trucks? Are they local or are they regional? Might have to do some digging on that.
I mean, for long haul truckers that that are driving solo, there are mandatory rest periods. They can only drive so long without stopping. So I would think within that framework, the charging should be fine, even if it's whatever, a half hour.
Well, I don't know, because truck drivers are also generally paid by the mile.
Yep.
Right. There's a lot of them.
They are.
So they're not going to be too happy driving something where they can't get as many miles in a day. Right. Because they basically are taking a pay cut.
But again, if they're mandated to take a break, though.
Well, I think they're only mandated like, I was just saying they're only mandated like 8 hours every 24, which I don't see. Like, yes, you could maybe break up 30-minute charging in that window, but like if you include sleeping, like that doesn't make sense, right? Like you don't want to have 8-hour-long breaks. You want to have 1 8-hour break if you can.
So let's add a wrinkle to that. Most of what we saw in that video and the rollout and the discussion was all about what I'd call fair weather trucking. If you're back east and you're dealing with, sub-zero weather and snow and ice, you're not going to get the range out of that pack that you get out here in Southern California. So you're going to be charging at least twice as often, maybe, another third on top of that. And I haven't seen or heard any discussion about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I think it's a great idea, and I hope that it continues to develop, and I'm looking forward to it being another revenue stream, another way to improve, environment. But I'm skeptical in saying like, oh man, this is going to revolutionize everything with, logistical transportation.
Yeah. I'm kind of surprised they didn't take over like UPS and FedEx trucks first. I mean,
right.
That strikes me as a more impactful, easy fix.
Right. Like Rivian has a contract with, or I should say Amazon has a contract with Rivian.
Correct.
To do that kind of thing. And for years, I've been hearing about like an electric Ford Transit Connect, those sort of last mile sort of vehicles. And that is, you're talking about suburbs or, residential areas. That's where you really want the EVs, right?
That's what I was thinking. I mean, it just logically, it makes sense to me. I mean,
I believe there's some electric FedEx right now too. I don't know exactly who's building them, but there's that, and then there's Chevy's Breitbart system. I don't know if you guys. I hope I
haven't heard of that.
Right. They're releasing, I think, with like Walmart shipping as a competitor to Rivian and Rivian and Amazon. Although those were all just affected in the same recall that the GMC Hummer had with like the sealing issues with their batteries that caused like a total start from zero. And I think all of those shipping vehicles were included. So a little bit of a wrinkle there.
You could always include the post office in that. That's another example that should have been EV.
There you go.
I think at any rate, Tesla using them themselves to deliver their own vehicles and then finally delivering them, whatever delivery they actually did, let's assume real deliveries are happening soon. That's the real test. And in that crucible, there'll be all the bugs will be ironed out and they'll become more robust. And
of course.
And so, I think it's a significant step forward.
Sure. Yeah, I think the interesting takeaway for me is for those that haven't, didn't see the event, is that basically a Tesla semi-truck has 3 Plaid motors in it. It's the same motor setup as the Plaid, which tells me that my car can pull 82,000 miles.
There you go.
Or 82,000 pounds.
Have at it, buddy.
If you swap out at 800,
I can.
Or was
I
it
can
900?
Put a tow hitch on there, and
I'm sure your frame will take it.
You gotta admit, it's pretty cool. I mean, they got the 3 Plaid motors set up. They've got one motor that's the continual use cruise motor, and then they got 2 for the auxiliary. Let's get this thing rolling and off the line. And it's all automatic. There's no gear shifting, or at least not as far as the user is concerned.
I found it interesting that they actually do have them set up with clutches and mechanically disengage them, as opposed to
But you don't have to do it. I mean,
it's interesting to me that they did that kind of mechanical setup with with moving parts and clutches, which can wear depending how they deal with it, as opposed to the sleep type function that that they had done with the Model S some years back, with all-wheel drive Model S back in.
Wasn't it like all the axle problems we had too?
Right. What are these? Are these permanent magnet motors, or are they AC induction motors?
I believe they're permanent magnet.
Okay, so that's a reason to
permanent magnet wrapped in carbon fiber.
Yeah, wrapped in carbon fiber on the stators.
Okay, well that's why they disengage them then. Whereas the AC induction motors, if it's completely de-energized, you still have the spinning mass, but you're not creating eddy currents or whatever.
Okay. Yeah, I mean I don't know. I guess the other thing that I wonder is how well they're handling like regenerative braking and things like that. With obviously it's going to be important for trying to go longer distance, but when you have that much weight, but yeah, I don't know.
Elon did make a comment about wanting cold brakes at the bottom of the hill, so he's pushing regen really hard. My only thought was that the truckers are going to have to get used to getting their brakes serviced once a year, just like the normal Model 3 Ys, S's, where since the brakes aren't used very much, they get really corroded and bad things happen. One more data point to take care of on your rig.
Yeah. And was there any mention of, how about like the tires and those types of aspects for the truck? Is it just standard trucks?
Didn't hear a word about it.
Because we know that there's a lot of differences in how their like technology is developing for EVs in general. I'm just curious, like you're gonna have that instant torque. Is that gonna have an impact on the wear of the tires? Trucks already have a ton of weight, so I guess the battery weight difference wouldn't be a big difference.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because the average truck, motor, cab, tires, frame, about 17,000 pounds, more or less. The Tesla rig, best we can tell, is right in that ballpark, even with the battery pack. I mean, it's pushing, maybe 20,000. So it's not much heavier than what the truck is today.
Sure.
So, do you really need bigger, heavier tires? Maybe not.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that you would need tires due to weight, like I said, because trucks are already heavy. So normally a car, an EV has tire issues for two primary reasons. One is the weight difference, because EVs are usually heavier due to the battery. The other, though, is the torque, the like instant acceleration from stop and go. I guess trucks probably don't have as much of that either, because they're usually
they usually don't do burnouts.
They said 0 to 60 in like 20 seconds is what they said, right?
Right, 20 seconds, 0 to 60.
And the real issue is from the standing start, what kind of wheel slippage you have, right? Because that's kinetic friction that actually would remove material from the tires. And I would think they would have their, whatever your what do you call it? Not anti-lock, but traction control. I assume their traction control would be worked so that you're not spinning the wheels at all.
Right, that's fair. So Alan Taylor with another comment, he said, after 8 hours, there must be a 30-minute break. So a truck could charge in 30 minutes. There would be no issue with pay for the driver for cross-country trucking. So every 8 hours, they're only required a 30-minute break.
Right, so that's what I was talking about. Right?
So the question is, can you actually?
Enough.
Yeah.
Especially if it's cold, it definitely isn't enough, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, I think Larry was saying he's concerned about the driver's ability to drive.
I guess, but yeah.
30 minutes is not enough.
That's what FSD is all about, right?
But yes, but to Doug's point, from a technology standpoint, I don't think 30 minutes is enough time to charge the battery pack and to be able to drive for 8 hours straight. But
I'm kind of surprised that, and maybe we'll hear stuff about this later, but this is the kind of vehicle, and the charging stations are perhaps infrequent enough that it would be neat to see some automation for charging here, right? Wouldn't it be nice to just sort of roll?
You think of the little robot snake that they had?
Not the snake thing,
I want that snake in my garage. He promised me.
Yeah, it should be in your garage. But okay, well, the snake by itself was already overkill. You don't need that kind of articulation.
Yes.
All you need are 3 or 4 rotating things. You
Yeah.
can access the full space that calculate the Jacobian and you got it. But I would think like something coming in from above. I mean, they have these sort of things with electric buses where they charge at some bus stops where it's just some connectors come down from above and charge quickly and have safety protocols where you can drive off and that kind of stuff. It'd be nice to see some kind of automation. That it'd be nice to just roll up and charge, and not have to get out, especially if it's cold, and plug the thing in. You know,
Sure.
It'll be interesting to see how they leverage any of that charging for Larry's little dream of his Cybertruck, because supposedly that version 4 charger will work with Larry's Cybertruck. Supposedly,
Can't wait.
Yeah, so
we'll see if you can do a 30-minute charge on that.
That's a perfect segue into our next topic. So Cybertruck charging. So I guess we did learn a little bit about that from this event.
We did.
Very little. Very little. So Doug, can you give us a synopsis? What did they cover for the Cybertruck charging?
Doug just got thrown under the truck.
Did you hear it? Did you hear
Which
the
one?
beats as it backed up?
There was basically, they had the whole semi event, and they added a sentence. And
oh, by the way,
on the Cybertruck as well. That's what we got. So
we get a lot of those, don't we?
As much detail as we got about the semi, we didn't get that much. I mean, I guess the question is, well, what's been said about the Cybertruck? Is that's going to have like a fairly large pack, right?
Supposedly, 3 motors, large pack, jet power in the back. I don't know. It depends who you talk to.
No, the jetpack is for the Roadster, not the Cybertruck.
On. The Cybertruck's going to have every bell and whistle.
Cybertruck isn't getting the RCS, the cold thrusters. The Cybertruck is getting, and this is actually happening as far as I know, it's getting an outboard motor so that you can, drive through a lake or something with it, because supposedly it will. It won't sink in 30 feet.
Yeah.
It's waterproof, so it should float because it displaces enough. Enough water.
The same company that has troubles with wind noise on my Tesla Model 3. Okay.
This is the Cybertruck. It's from the future of 2019.
Yeah.
It's made from a single piece of steel.
That's right.
I'm just kidding.
It's
bits.
They have this
origami
steel, and they just
perfect.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to start making them in Japan instead of China.
Single forging.
But again, like you would expect the all the stuff that they have with this Model Y, like the 4680 and the Gigapress, and you've heard about this happening for the Cybertruck, right? The Gigapress for that.
You've heard about the Gigapress, supposed to be there for that too.
So I mean, if they have batteries and there's a large enough pack that each cell has its own C rate. But if you have a lot of cells, then all the overall power that has to go through the plug goes up. And so, I mean, will Cybertruck really benefit from a megawatt? Probably, right?
Briefly.
Briefly.
So, if you guys don't mind me asking, with your much more intelligent opinion,
God, here it comes.
Where and how long before we see like a megawatt charger for the public, even? So like
for
the capability is one thing. Well, that's what
they said next year.
Okay.
The promise was next year version 4 superchargers would arrive.
So
now that may be December 29th. And they'll put one charger in.
I was just going to say, so 2 years after that, we'll see one.
There's next year. There's also soon, and there's right. So you put all those together, and they all basically mean the same thing. Meaning, I don't know.
Yeah, it's Tesla.
So let's be clear though. That megawatt charger is very likely to be installed before the Cybertruck comes out.
Ooh, harsh.
Right? we don't know when each of those things are going to happen. So.
Just follow the Frito-Lays. You'll find the supercharger.
Yes.
I don't quite get the delay on the Cybertruck, really. Like I've said, to me, the semi is the most important in terms of environmental impact. The Roadster is a halo car, so whenever that comes out,
whenever,
but the Cybertruck, I mean, maybe not the Cybertruck itself, but a truck. why is Tesla lagging here? There are already several trucks that you can buy, like legitimate trucks that you can buy from legitimate companies. And, you know, whether or not they have issues and they go bankrupt, but still, and they all are pretty traditional looking trucks, right? So why is Tesla lagging so much on the Cybertruck when there's clearly a market here and they've waited so long that customers have gone with competitors already?
Do you think that's part of it? Because I've had a rough theory of just with, you know, the Ford Lightning being, you know, basically available now, like you have to pay a markup, but anyone can go get one if you're willing to pay a couple.
If you're willing to pay
grand
for it.
You're willing to pay
yeah,
a Roadster's price for a
exactly.
pickup truck. Yeah.
But it's tangible,
Lightning.
you know? So I wonder if they're just like waiting to strike and like kind of get a gauge of the market now that, and then, you know, everyone's following suit. There's supposed to be the Ram Revolution right around the corner. There's the announcement of the Sierra, and then the Silverado literally a couple months away, hopefully.
Well, and you got the Rivian plus the Rivian
oh yeah,
Suburban.
the most obvious one. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you got the Rivian plus their Suburban clone, which is actually a really nice.
Is
truck.
that the R1S you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, gorgeous.
It's very nice. I'm seriously considering that.
Yeah, man, they're great. So I wonder if that's part of it, but at the same time, it could just be, you know, they literally are just hitting snag after snag too. So it's anyone's guess, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
well, if it's anything like the Model X, you know, project, shall we call it scope creep or Elon creep?
Scope creep.
You know? You know, I mean, they kept changing the specs on that as they were going. It became a real troublesome project. I kind of wonder if that's playing in the background here.
Yeah, but that didn't take as long. Then again, they didn't have as many existing products at the time.
That's true.
And you know, a Tesla development does not end at delivery.
Oh right? No, they continuous delivery.
So after the product is already being delivered, they're, you know, finding new issues and improving them by the week.
To test their code in production. Yeah.
Yeah. And they test the
hardware. I mean, even
and the hardware. Yeah. 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 I mean, I would. I from my perspective, the only reason I could think of why it's not out yet is purely due to it not being ready, and or them not having the bandwidth, supply, parts, whatever, to actually start shipping them. Because they've had such a backlog of orders, right? There's an insane number of orders, you know, pre-orders that they've had for the Cybertruck. So they gotta know demand is there. They're gonna get a lot of money, right? Like once they do it, so there'll be a nice chunk of cash. So yeah, I feel like they're probably just not ready to actually start shipping them.
During this time, they have also increased production ability, right? Not just capacity, but ability, right?
By a large amount.
Yeah.
By, you know, new
you got Giga Berlin, you got Giga Shanghai,
Texas, yeah.
So maybe they're waiting for that.
Yeah, so that's exciting news though, because Megawatt charging. Now I'm a little annoyed that like the Cybertruck's going to get that, and my Model S Plaid isn't going to get that. But you know, whatever.
It's called progress, Louis.
It's just time to upgrade. Yeah.
My car also has a big battery. Okay, you know.
Well, you know what's going to happen with the Cyber? It'll be just like your Plaid. You know, you'll start at a megawatt, and it's going to go like 2%, and then immediately ramp down.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. No, I wouldn't actually. So for those Cybertruck folks out there, I would have no hopes for maintaining a megawatt for any period of time if
Not
it
even
actually
close.
hooked up. Because the thing to keep in mind is how large the battery is, and as cells, you know, your charging rate goes down. The Semi has what the calculation are it's somewhere between 900 kilowatt
I saw 900
to so like 900 to 1,000
so
at least,
or 900 or I think 12 Model Ys, something like that.
Right.
Some ridiculous amount.
So most of us will probably have to, you know, settle for, you know, 350 kilowatt charging.
Yeah, you know, that charging rate. I mean, for me, I used to look for the, you know, the 3 lightning bolts instead of, you know, whatever.
The 2 or 1. Yeah.
Right? As if everyone knows what we're talking about when looking for superchargers. You know what? I think it doesn't actually really matter for me anyway, because I see my car, it's 250 kilowatts. It's doing that for maybe 5 minutes or something. Yep. And then pretty quickly it's down to 100 and then 80 and then 50. You know, so,
well, that's kind of the rude surprise for a lot of Model 3 owners, because the Model 3 is kind of on the low end of the charging adventure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I charge at a 70 kilowatt supercharger a lot because there's really no reason to go out of my way typically to find anything higher. I mean, the best I've gotten out of that car is 130 kilowatts, and that's down in single digits. So
yeah,
why bother?
So I've had my car for over 6 months now. I've still never used a supercharger ever.
Okay.
Because I don't go anywhere.
What are we going to do with you?
I have 400-mile range, and I don't leave the city of Austin.
But you should take it to the drags and, you know, show all those ice cars a lesson. Yeah.
I've done the, you know, the launches. They're amazing. So much power. But that's still like, unless I'm doing it a ton, which you can't, you can only do it, you know, a few times, and then you got to wait because it overheats everything. You know, even driving, I can drive to San Antonio and back. Still don't need a supercharger. So,
yeah. Well, wish I could, but I got shorter.
I was going to say, I'm jealous of that. Yeah. I've got an old Model X that's begging for range.
Well, you know, I don't know if you saw the new 2023 Model S and X's are going to have larger screens in the rear. So that's really exciting for not me, because I don't.
I was just going to say, yeah, my daughter.
There are people out there
in the back and watch TV.
Yeah, I could sit in the back and watch TV. No,
you know,
you got FSD.
That screen back there is such an afterthought, and
for sure.
It's so poorly positioned. I mean, it's the only place where they could put it, you know, without having to change too much. But it's only, to me, only really useful for, I would imagine, like adjusting the audio, or you want to, you know, the backseat drivers that want to play with the music and whatnot. It's a terrible place for like watching while.
Yeah. Would you not use your phone or an iPad instead of like looking at the center console the whole trip?
You're much better off with an iPad.
I should bring my iPad.
Yeah, we should. I mean, why haven't any of these companies been doing this yet? Right? When you have your Model X or whatever, you should just have screens on the back of the seat like an airplane.
Kia does it.
Kia does it. Okay.
Kia to me is like the biggest sleeper right now, man. Every time I see one, I'm like, do I like that? Do I like Kia now? What's going on here? Like, they keep redoing their logo and stuff. And my wife was looking at a Telluride for a while, and I was like, I kind of like these pretty cool. We didn't, but I
don't know that I would buy one, but my wife did like the new logo designs and how they've been updating things. She's pointed that out.
That's me, like mostly aesthetics.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Already. Speaking of redesigning things and refreshing things.
Yes.
Big news in the world.
Oh,
the Model 3
Highlander or Highland.
Model 3 Highlander.
Highland.
There can only be one. It's just okay. Don't sue me, whoever owns the rights to Highlander. The Highland is the code name or the project name for the refresh.
Supposed refresh.
Mike, hit us with the details. The deets. What do we know?
What have we heard? Not a whole lot.
It's all rumor and speculation. So everything we say.
This is strictly like eighth hand rumor. Everything from things that we've heard about, like the no stock for turning, the yoke and all that. But I've heard no mirrors, no side mirrors, but I'm not sure how they can do that legally. I thought there was a regulation they had to have glass mirrors, but maybe I'm wrong.
US, yeah.
I've heard rumors of new camera placements. Probably because Doug has complained on our show, and Elon took notice that we don't have good camera placement, so he's going to correct that.
I only have that kind of.
But I mean, it's just smoke and mirrors right now. Nobody really knows, other than the fact that something is going on. We saw pictures of a Model 3 that had the front and tail blacked out with camouflage. Typically what you get for a prototype car. So there's something going on. We're just not sure what.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's been talked about is that that it's inspired from the refresh to the
it'll be the new Roadster
X, right? and that's funny, because to me the refresh S and X really took from the 3s and the Y in terms of deleting the standard air vents, having that sort of airflow control from the center console, the landscape, horizontal screen as opposed to a portrait screen, which honestly integrated with the car much better than the landscape setup. And then what you think, well, what did they do that went further? Well, there's the steering wheel yoke, which is controversial. But beyond that, the removal of the steering wheel stalks, like for turn signals and changing gears, forward versus reverse.
But you got the touchscreen for that. Thing. Why do you need that?
And then your buttons, they went to that sort of touch thing, which I think is completely, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't see what that's gaining you by making touch, capacitive buttons instead of a proper button on a steering wheel.
They're not
cheaper.
gaining you anything.
They're cheaper.
From experience.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are they cheaper?
Costs.
They're cheaper
Probably.
to manufacture. Yes.
Do you guys think that's the goal? Is to get I know everything on the especially the Y is up like 15K that it was like a year and a half ago. Do you think the goal with a refresh is to get it back to a quote unquote affordable level, or is it just to doing what other manufacturers do and just keep it a little spicy every five or so years?
Well, I mean, it's definitely cost cutting, and they've said as much. And there's the whole Elon philosophy of the best part is no part. So they'll probably try to get rid of everything they can. But certainly, 5 years or however long it's been, it's pretty about time to do a little bit of a facelift. And actually, if you see, there have been some photos of a vehicle that has some camouflage on the nose and the tail. And that makes a lot of sense to me, because what parts are those on the nose and the tail? Those are the plastic parts, right? Those are the parts that are cheaper to change.
Cheaper to fix, easy to move, change. Yeah.
As opposed to, having new stampings for the metal parts. And that's exactly what they did back when there was a Roadster 2.5 that came out back in the original Roadster. And what did they change? They weren't going to change the carbon fiber parts, right? Those carbon fiber parts are really expensive to tool. And whereas the nose and the tail are plastic. So just coming up with different plastic, design, and just to give you a little bit of a refresh. So that's what I assume they're doing. Refresh the nose and the tail, the plastic parts, because that's cheap to change. And then change some interior parts.
I'm waiting for LiDAR on top like the Volvo.
That I guarantee is not happening.
You'd be waiting a while, my friend.
Is there anything you current Model 3 owners would upgrade for if it had it? Is there anything you're waiting for, or is it just
yeah?
What are the
Mike knows what it is. I don't want a camera on the chin of the thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Camera on the nose.
Doug has a perennial problem about the camera placement.
It's just such an obvious thing, and I don't understand why they didn't do it from the start. That's all it is.
I have
a camera right in the nose, right in the very nose.
What is it? It's a Lexus NX press vehicle right now. I'm doing a review for, and the camera system on that is recently upgraded, and I was like, I want this now, because it's like a full 360 with like 5 different views, and including what you're saying, front camera you could just pop up at any speed under 10 miles an hour, I think it is, and like see the view of that front camera. And I was just like, man, more cameras are definitely.
But does it have ultrasonics?
I'm sure.
You know what? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, and I'm legitimately asking.
I think it does though, because
I've seen in the forums, other forums, that the very newest 2023 Model 3 users are complaining that the manual says they should get a representation of how close they are to something, and they're not.
Oh.
And some of us are having to point out to them that they have lost their ultrasonic sensors, and they lost that ability, and the manual doesn't reflect that yet. So
well,
there's
that
some
sounds
rumbling in the ranks. So I was just curious if any other manufacturers kind of followed suit.
I
think for now it still has it, or at least something that's working close enough to it to give you like
it emulates it well.
Yeah, exactly.
I see YOLO's comment. I've seen a number of people ask for that, YOLO. He said, I have a Model Y Performance, not a Model 3, and would like air suspension like my Model S has.
Oh,
Not
absolutely.
cheaper, but I prefer air ride and adjustability.
Absolutely.
Yeah, air suspension is definitely a sought after. I mean, you made a comment there, Larry, about to bring the price down. Really, in my opinion, Tesla could bring the price down whenever they want, right? They have the highest margins of any automaker out there. So they're definitely not running into cost issues. Now they burn money like nobody's business because of all their R&D and other types of expansions and stuff they're doing. So I don't want to say like, oh, they're just sitting on a pile of money, because I doubt it. They're spending it, but
going to the Cybertruck.
Yeah, I think as we see, right, like right now. Yeah, it's going to start. Right now, the prices have been coming down. Right, there's a sale price right now I've seen for like Model 3s. And,
there's a rebate if you take delivery.
There's a rebate. Yeah, so there's a rebate this month in the U.S. if you buy.
Is that tax credit related though?
They're not saying.
Think it's. I don't think it is. I think it's. It could be. It could be, but I don't think it is. But they've been lowering prices in China.
I saw that. That's good. That's a good sign.
I mean, realistically, I feel like they were pricing them based on what the market would bear, and they may come down a bit as sales, decline if that happens.
I mean, I think at this point they're trying to, up total deliveries for the year, right? So it's just the end of the year push is how many more can we get out the door just to make that number look better?
Well, I know hundreds, if not thousands, are waiting because of the, when the new tax credit comes in for next year, and they can get a extra, what is it, 7K or 7.5?
Well, but the debate is what Teslas are actually going to qualify for that. And by all accounts, not a lot.
I think the 3s and Ys will, but that's about where the line is.
Base 3s will, maybe, because of the price point. And the Ys will because they're, a crossover SUV.
Yeah, the Y's under 80K and then 3's under 60.
The base 3 qualifies, but from what I remember a couple months ago, the Performance and the Extended didn't. Although you can't get the Extended right now, it's not available.
Okay, I guess I haven't seen how expensive 3's are now. Dang,
they're not cheap anymore.
Okay.
Then you got plaids.
Well, I mean, plaids don't qualify for anything. I don't get it. I got no EV tax credits. I get nothing. They're like, oh, well, you had enough money to waste on.
That's
cars,
right.
So
That's right.
Screw you. Thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I still think it's exciting. Like, I really enjoyed the refresh that they did with the Model S, hence why I ended up buying one. And I think the Model 3 will certainly help sales.
You just wanted the fancy lights. I remember.
Fancy lights, yeah. So it will help sales, I think, in the long run. It's a good thing. But I guess the question is, how is this going to impact Cybertruck coming out, right? This is more engineering work, more cycles being spent, and yet we still don't have Cybertruck. We still haven't seen Roadster. There were a ton of people disappointed. They were expecting a little sneak Roadster. Mention.
Yeah, that was the hot topic.
Mention at the event wasn't brought up at all. There was nothing about it, so that's certainly something.
And then to just clarify, that's because the debut of the Roadster was a secret that happened at the Tesla Semi event.
Oh yeah,
which was pretty funny because the Semi, again, it's like that kind of vehicle. Like, do I really care about this? Most of us aren't buying semis, and the total fanboys went to this event, and they got.
You deep inside.
Oh yeah, I'm interested.
You really want a semi to convert it to an RV?
Not me. Not me. Some people want that. Not me.
You want a full-on RV.
The point was that the Roadster was unveiled at that event, and so they thought maybe you'd get an update on the Roadster here, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. I don't know. Some other
you guys
time
aren't.
In the future.
You guys don't have a Roadster in the future, do you? You're not one of the people waiting.
I was not willing to give Elon a $50,000 loan for undisclosed number of years to maybe get one. So my compromise with my wife was, well, an S is still a reasonable car, right?
And that's what the
Plaid has 1,000 horsepower.
That's what the Plaid was, really. It was like the stuff that was promised for the Roadster, and it's like, guess what? We can just stick the stuff into an existing
Model S.
vehicle, the Model S, and that's what they did.
Sell a bajillion of them,
and sell a deal of them. The Roadster, I'm a little sore on because Tesla. There were a bunch of people waiting for free Roadsters because it was a prize for their referral program, and yeah, I'm a little sore on it only because we've been running Tesla Motors Club since 2006, and so
you'll get a free semi.
And we have effectively sold many Teslas, right? By the service that we provide. And yet about the time I got a Tesla, right about then they neutered the whole referral program. So when, people could get a Roadster if they had 500 referrals, which, I'm sure we've sold more than that. At that point, I was like, oh, you can get a few supercharging miles.
Not quite.
Here's some crumbs.
So you get like $20 worth of charging, basically, or whatever it is. It could even be it could be $200 worth of charging. It's it's nothing compared to getting a Roadster. It's like, so yeah, I'm a little sore on it.
I bet.
Oh, Doug.
Oh well, but
also with a Roadster.
The thing is, I would like a Roadster. A little R Roadster. I drove a Miata for like 20 years. I love that car. And it's in terms of like, you talk about power to weight ratio. Well, in terms of like fun per dollar ratio, the Miata is great, and I got a used one for like $2,000 and kept it for well over a decade and sold it for twice as much, and those are great little cars. So I would love, and I was a little sad where, the original Roadster was around $100,000, and now the new one is like $250,000 kind of thing. Instead of, hey, it'd be nice to have, the Miata was the people's Roadster. I wish just Mazda or somebody would give me an electric, 2-seater rag top that I can have fun in and have, have that EV torque.
Someone needs to give them the zip.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't buy one. I drove one, and they were definitely a fun car. And so my car that I had before I had a 370Z, and that was a blast to drive because it's super light and it's got a lot of pep for how light it is. But I mean, come on, nothing comes close to an EV now with the instant torque and acceleration.
So if I could get that, and it 100 miles range would be plenty. Just something tossable to go in the twisties in the hills and come home with a big smile.
Buy an old Roadster. How much are they now? They got to be pretty cheap. A used one.
I gotta call up Carl.
I think they're hard to get.
They're hard to get.
Carl. Yeah, Carl has some.
I think they're back around $70,000 to $100,000, but probably more than 60 these days.
Wow, that's impressive. That's a pretty good longevity for the value. Alrighty, let's see. What do we got? Any other last comments on the event and the things you saw, or any of the news breaking? I don't know. Mike, Larry, Doug.
Well, Larry asked the question, what would it take me to get a new 3? And I just
Good
mentioned
question.
the camera kind of as a joke a little bit, but I would like, I'm at the point where I'm starting to see some lag and weird stuff going on with the center entertainment unit. And I don't know that if Tesla can give me a new computer with the existing system, if they made it modular enough, could use some more processing there. I see weird stuff happen when I'm charging and I'm watching YouTube, and then the thing might freeze, or I have to reboot it or something ridiculous. And it feels like, okay, it's a little bit underpowered now. And I know newer cars have, in my car, the 2018, I know newer cars have a better,
they do different chipset.
Yeah. And so that's something I could use, I think.
Okay. Anything on your side, Mike? With you have a 3 now, right?
I do.
For a while.
I do.
Yeah. So anything that would lead you to upgrade to a newer model? Any wants? Or I think your wife drives the 3 usually, or
no, I drive the 3 usually.
Oh, you drive.
She's had it for the last couple of days. I keep poking around. I keep poking to see how the prices are, and would I get a performance? Maybe, but I really want a better suspension for the car. That would probably be enough to turn me over. I'm interested in the Y with the new suspension that they came out with for the 2023s, and I'm wondering if that's going to filter down to the 3s anytime soon. So,
sure,
we'll see.
Nice.
Of course, I'll probably get all my hacks done just in time to turn it in, right? That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh
if
man.
If only.
Okay, so
Comments.
we've got a number of starred questions from the comments and section of our stream. So let's see if we can knock these out. Let's see. Chris C asked,
Bring it on.
Chris C said, "Hello, gentlemen. What do you expect FSD beta to when do you expect FSD beta to decipher all road signs, including no turn on red and diamond yellow shaped speed signs?" I assume
good luck with that.
Yeah, I mean, there you have our answer. No,
well, all is an absolute thing. So all will be infinite or whatever.
It'll be a while.
But the real important ones, no turn on red. I've had FSD beta try to turn right on red plenty of times. And another one that's big for me is like just speed signs. Like there'll be a speed, say 45 for trucks. Speed limit, 65, and they'll say 45 for trucks. And the car wants to slow down to 45. It's like, okay, come on.
I've had mine try to slow down. We've got a hill not too far from the house that we live on, and there's a sign that says 25 downhill for trucks. But the speed limit for a car is 45, and FSD continually slams on the brakes when it sees that sign.
So there are two things with that. One is that, it can do it as soon as they program it to do it. That's not so much a training thing as telling it to do it, right? To be able to I suppose it's training and being able to recognize those signs, but actually turn on trying to recognize those subtleties. But also it might be an issue of resolution with the cameras. And if they had to read that print is pretty small for a truck.
Only they had a front camera.
Yeah, but they've already talked about higher resolution cameras, haven't they? And for hardware
version 4. Yeah.
LiDAR.
Get out of here with your fancy lasers and things. It's in Star Wars. Alrighty, so I mostly agree with Doug that it might not be possible to do with current hardware at the speed of which you would need, but they definitely can improve it. Engineers hate absolutes, so we'll say a high degree of confidence for all things, or most important things, I should say. Another year or two, maybe. Could be longer. Maybe. I'm still firmly in the camp that I do not expect FSD to work in the way in which people think it should before 2030. I that far out, I think before you would be comfortable to like not pay attention and be reading a book or doing whatever, and you're confident that your car is not going to kill you or your family. Like that's probably not going to happen before 2030.
Well, and that's going to depend on time of day, Lewis.
And that doesn't mean any of the cars on the road today will be able to do it. So, anyway, so we'll see what happens. But yes, to Mike's point, inclement weather and other conditions may make that. So, sorry, Chris. We are not optimistic that that'll be soon, but or at least I'm not. I don't know. Does anybody think it's likely to be soon? Anyone want to disagree? Larry, you think it's tomorrow? You ready? You throw down you're not shaking your head no.
I'm afraid to even guess.
Yeah. Okay. Afraid to guess.
I don't think it's too soon, but there are some that are critical. No turn on red is definitely critical, and you're at a stop when you're there. So if you can't decipher everything that's in front of you, everything that's in front of you at a dead stop, then that's a problem. And you're going to start moving when you're not supposed to turn on red.
But it's dark out, and you got to put your high beams on so it can see it.
It turns on the high beams often, So.
Does it ever turn them off? No.
No.
So
I've been flashed so many times.
While we're on FSD, let me insert a comment. that came from I think it was a comment on one of our shorts about version 11, I think. But and this comment might be a troll, but I'll just read it. It's pretty much directed at Mike. It's from somebody called James Bond, and the comment is, "Why on earth would you dump out of the FSD beta program? We all have a chance to contribute to make this better faster. Rather selfish of that creepy Mike guy."
Damn Skippy.
Did he actually use the word creepy?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's Elon in disguise.
So selfish of you, Mike, not to pay $200 a month.
Yeah, Mike.
So selfish of you.
I'm so selfish. What can I say?
Do you have a response to that?
I paid my money. I took my lumps. I'm done.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to give an answer on behalf of Mike to defend him a little bit. So
He stole my heart.
what I would say is FSD beta has over 100,000 people in it. So losing Mike is not going to impact the delivery timeline of FSD.
Was that losing Mike or loser Mike?
losing Mike. And I guess my other point would be the vast majority of the improvement of FSD has nothing to do with any of you or me.
Yeah.
Right.
They're doing it off of data that they have that doesn't require you to be in the program. They're not waiting for you to give feedback. You push the button and submit feedback. I'm not saying don't do it, keep doing it. I'm sure it's great. But I can assure you 99.9% of the engineering effort is not based on individual people driving their cars doing stuff.
It certainly wasn't me. I can tell you that.
It's based on their own testing, their own simulations, and just going over lots of data that they're pulling in that has nothing to do with the beta program.
Right.
So.
And I would go as far as to say there are plenty of us, like me, that already paid for it, right? Paid for it a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So they've had plenty of time to make interest off of the money we paid in. Anybody on the subscription program, my recommendation is it's not worth it. It's not worth paying an extra $200 a month for what you get right now. And Tesla has to know that by going to a subscription model. So my recommendation is not to buy it now. If you want to contribute to Tesla in some way, there probably are better ways.
Go buy a new Tesla.
Yeah.
Elon would probably prefer you bought their stock than you.
Oh, come on.
But yeah, so
it's only depressed a little bit.
I agree with Doug. I would say it's probably not worth the $200 a month. You want to try it just to see what it is? Go for it. And in your driving circumstance, maybe it's fine for the kind of driving you do. Maybe it covers it. I honestly feel like it does cover 99% of the driving I do. Like I almost never have to take over. I very rarely have issues, but that's because I don't do a lot of driving. Right? I have less than 2,000 miles on my car in the last a little over 6 months, and that is my primary daily driver. Being
by comparison,
a term, but an idiom,
right.
But not actually true.
So by comparison, Lewis, in the last year, November to November, I put 22,000 miles on my Model 3.
Right.
So
there you go. That's it. So Mike drives. My
I drive a
car.
lot.
I had my previous car for 12 years, and I got rid of it with 35,000 miles on it when I traded it in for my Plaid. So I'm not a high. I do not drive often. But anyway, so for me it works great though. I do like it. But anyway, so let's move on to our next. Dave Kaplan asks, have they ever thought of putting batteries on the trailers so that they can get more range out of the front semi? So, I'm not aware of that being a comment. Like they didn't say anything that I know of for that. I have some thoughts on why it probably isn't a good idea, but it could be a good idea. I don't know. Doug, what do you think?
I have some thoughts too. It hasn't really come up with Tesla directly as far as I know, but the concept for years now, people have been talking about EV semis and would you put batteries on the trailer, that sort of thing. The issue is it's diminishing returns. Batteries are heavy, right? So if you're using the load, you're using your carrying capacity to put more batteries on, then you're also decreasing your range because now you've increased the mass of the vehicle. And this is a standard kind of engineering thing. You work out the cost versus benefit. And there's probably a nice curve, and you can find an intersection point that gives you what's optimal. But no, this hasn't been talked about for the Tesla Semi, and I don't think they're considering it. But in general, you can do that, but at some point it's diminishing returns. You want to, carry a watermelon a million miles, then you could probably do it. But is that really worth doing, right?
Yeah. So again, maybe a thing, but they haven't said anything about it. And then it also gets into all kinds of things around like needing special trailers and how do you do the hookup, and
electrical connectivity, and all that.
It becomes an engineering challenge. So, but who knows? In the future, may happen. Because there might be some interesting things about like distributing the weight equally and things like that. But already the trailer's going to be where all the weight is anyway with the load. So we'll see. But thanks for the question, David. Let's see. Marcos Vargas says, something I noticed is that they never said that the Cybertruck will charge at 1 megawatt.
They said they could use the 1 megawatt charger.
That's an interesting observation. Yes. That means that it will be able to plug into the 1 megawatt charger,
and
which
pull 200.
uses the same port that the current ones do, as far as we know. So,
well, maybe it'll do 700 kilowatts. Who knows? More than.
Yeah, that's still pretty great.
It's a newer vehicle, so maybe they'll do better than the SX 3NY existing.
Yeah. So yeah, but excellent point. It probably will not do 1 megawatt. It'll probably do some segment.
Do we know the battery pack capacity? What's the size of the pack, energy wise?
If I were to guess, I know like the Lightning, for instance, is probably the best truck to reference. Is the max pack with 300 miles range, I believe, is 130 kilowatt hours. So my guess is the Cybertruck's going to have to be like 150 or more to do the, what does it say, 500 miles of range on the top end. Like they're going to need a big battery.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, it seems likely. Yeah, I think the Plaids are 110 kilowatt hours is roughly what the pack is. So it's going to be probably bigger than that, but probably not too much bigger. 150 is a good guess. But yeah, they haven't explicitly said, right, because the car's not out yet.
Versus the 1 kilowatt the Semi has.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So EC or EC, as we'll call you. No, I'm just kidding. EC says, how would FSD for Semi work when switching trailers? It's a really good point.
It's a roadblock.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I think that it is still possible to do what I think is likely to happen is that Semi is not going to get FSD. It's going to probably get lane keeping and those types of things, as Doug mentioned, what you probably mostly want and care about. It is possible that they could do things like with cameras pointing backwards, or things where they could model the trailer and they could kind of see where things are. But yeah, I mean, they haven't mentioned it at all, so I wouldn't hold my breath for that happening anytime soon.
Yeah. From what I can tell, the current sensor stack is relatively mirroring what's on the cars now. There are a bunch of mirrors. A bunch of cameras. At least 3 cameras per side mirror. One that's sort of facing down for that blind spot, kind of like the B-pillar camera on the cars. There's one looking back, kind of like the side repeater. And what's the other one doing? I guess it's just I'm not sure what the other one is doing. I guess the other one is, I'm not sure what the other one is doing. But either way, they have a sort of a good coverage of the sides of the trailer. And that's the best that any semi-truck driver has. When I was talking with Wes, we had sort of talked about the idea of like a camera pack that you could just put on the trailer, that might communicate via radio, or have a simple line. But I don't think that would be part of the stack. It could be, but yeah, every trailer for a semi truck, those trailers need to be modular, or at least the containers that go on them, right? So I don't know. I think like Lewis said, it won't really be full FSD, and they've been doing lane keeping for years with just a camera in the front, right? Just the whole Mobileye kind of setup. And, if it really was an FSD kind of thing, I would think we'd have to drive for a little bit to understand the dynamics of the trailer. Like as the weight changes, maybe the driving dynamics change a bit. How hard can you brake? That's what
extended trailers, wide load trailers. I mean, you got all kinds of trailers that offer different dynamics for the truck. I don't see how you could make that work, really.
So,
I mean, even
it's
driving
a fun adventure.
Yeah, no kidding.
There you have it. Trucks are complicated. Lots of different trailers. Probably not getting
Absolutely, they are complicated.
Right. So, but hey, we may get that camera right on the nose pointing.
They'll make Doug very happy.
All righty. So with that, that's a wrap of today's episode. So I just want to thank everyone for hanging out with us, participating. We love the questions and comments. Keep them coming. The love, the hate, all of it is great. I want to thank Larry, our very special guest, for being on the show. Thank you so much for being with us. Want a special thank to producers and folks behind the scenes, Danny, Adam, James, and others. We have, if you want to support the podcast, as always, like and subscribe on various social media. You can always become a supporting member on the Tesla Motors Club website. So we always appreciate that as well. But yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you next time. This has been episode 29. We're out.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.